Welcome to Invisible No More, the podcast where we explore triumphs over trauma and the powerful journeys of healing and resilience. I'm your host, Shannon Huff, and together we'll shine a light on the stories of strength, hope, and the paths we forge to reclaim our lives. Let's dive in. Welcome to Invisible No More. My name is Shannon Huff. I'm here with Kristin today, and we are going to talk about Kristin's story and journey and just everything that she has gone through. We both served in the military in the 90s. You were Army, right?
Yes.
Or Air Force?
Army.
Okay. I grew up in Fort Knox, so I said I would never
Oh,
join
wow.
the Army and I would never marry a soldier. I joined the Navy and I married an Army guy when I went back after getting out of the Navy. So I tried.
Yes.
I accomplished one part of that. But thank you for joining me. I know you are doing some counseling and treatment right now, but you took a break to be with us, and I'm so grateful. So just tell me a little bit about why you joined the military, what was going on at that time, and kind of start with your story.
Well, my family, my mother was big on being patriotic. So I always grew up that way, and I said, what can be more patriotic than being part of the armed forces and defending the Constitution? So I signed up. I went away to boot camp, and all hell broke loose. When I mean all hell broke loose, my drill sergeant raped me. Then I went to AIT, specialty training. The first thing that was said to me when I got there is, none of the shit that you put that drill sergeant through is going to happen here. You're put on notice. Well, when I was in basic and he raped me, I reported it. They told me they were going to dishonorably discharge me if I didn't change my story. I refused. Once I refused, we went home for Christmas. I spoke to the congressman back home. We were family friends. And he called down and he said, none of this crap is going to happen to this soldier. 3 weeks left. I got a blanket party several times a night. They beat me to where you couldn't even recognize me when I left. So I land at my new duty station, going to school. They tell me that, and then I get raped again by our instructor. So now I got 2 under my belt. I get sent over to Germany. When you land in Germany, you have to take what is called classes to learn how to speak German. They don't do any good. Well, one night I was at the bowling alley. We were bowling, and that's all I remembered. I woke up. I had no clue where I was at. I couldn't find half of my clothes. Walked back to my room, found it, and didn't remember things. But I started having horrific nightmares. It wasn't with my first 2 rapes, but I continued to have the same nightmares that somebody was attacking me, and I couldn't see his face. About 8 weeks later, I get called down to the hospital. They call me down and they sit me down and they said, we need you to name all of your sexual partners. And I said to the doctor, you mean the men that have raped me? And he said, any sexual partners you have had in the last 5 years. So I named the 2 men, and they said, is there anybody else? Well, I'm a lesbian. When I went in, you couldn't admit it. So I said no. So he was like, you were a virgin? And I was like, yeah. I had to lie because I couldn't tell. So he says, do you know who this gentleman is? And I said, he's my instructor. And he was like, have you had sex with him? No. He said, well, we're going to run a blood test on you. So he runs a blood test and it comes back positive for a sexually transmitted disease. He said, you lied. We're not going to believe a thing that you said. So they let it go. They gave me drugs, which I was shocked because I was never with men willingly. So now I'm upset. I'm getting ready to leave the military on a medical, and my boss comes into my barracks room in the middle of the night. I wake up and she's now raping me. I turn her in, and our company commander said, Bill Clinton made a new law. Don't ask, don't tell, don't pursue. We can't do anything about it. So the whole time I was in the military, from the minute I hit basic till 2 weeks before I left, I was being raped. I didn't stay that long. 91 to 94.
Oh, my friend.
And when I came back, I filed for VA benefits. They turned me down. I got out on a medical for my lungs being burnt. And they paid me for that after 20 years. They finally said, oh, I guess we'll give you something. Then I got into the system and kept saying, I was raped. I was raped. I was raped. I had one doctor let me read my chart, and all of their names were in it. That I complained about rape. That I brought it to the attention. And it was also in there that he gave me the STD. Nothing ever became of it. Years go by. Well, while I still served, I tried committing suicide. I jumped out of a 3rd-story window and landed on a Connex. They took me to the hospital. They asked me, why did you do that? Because I can't live with the rapes. So it's been throughout in my medical record, and nothing was done. Fast forward to just recently, I put in for a higher level for PTSD from MST, because we're told once you get into a program like I'm in, when I got here, they told me that you're automatically going to be bumped up to 100%. Didn't happen. I still sit at 90%. Now, veterans that have been raped, we have high blood pressure because we're always on edge. We're always vigilant. You can get your dilated eyes, which hence the glasses. I can't go out in light because I can't see. It hurts that bad. You can also get gastro problems, which I have. Every woman that is here with me, there's 9 left. One couldn't take it. She left. But all 10 of us are either addicted to drugs or alcohol. Now, we're all clean because they make us be clean. We have to drop whenever they say, and we have to breathalyze. Do we want to use? We did in the beginning because they brought up our trauma and kept bringing it up and bringing it up. But now we're in the part where we're learning how to deal with the trauma. So we're all sober now. Are we all going to go back and be sober? I'm going to go back and be sober. I'm not going to be drug addicted. My drug of choice was marijuana. I thank God I never did hard drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has a story, and our stories are all parallel. We are all different branches, but we've all had the same thing happen from men in power. and women in power.
Yeah, it goes both ways, actually. And
Mm-hmm.
after the Don't Ask, Don't Tell ended,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, I was in 92 to 97,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm heterosexual. I like men. That's me. That's my choice. I don't,
Mm-hmm.
it's however you live. But I dealt with it from both sides as well. Not I wasn't assaulted by a woman, but I was constantly hit on and harassed and, "Oh, are you sure you're a straight girl? We'll show you how
Mm-hmm.
it can be done." And but I was actually raped by a military police officer. And if you can imagine, I mean, we get so much testing when we join, and never realize that afterwards, after you're in and you have a disease, um, they can't kick you out as easily. Well, he had
Mm-hmm.
HIV.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so he went to jail for 6 months because he was married and we were on a date. Nothing for the HIV. Nothing.
Wow.
6 months for being married because that's a no-no in the military.
Right.
You can rape somebody. But
Well, mine were all married and they never got
yeah,
in trouble.
yeah, no. It depends on I think what it was, they had to do something,
Mm-hmm.
in order to appease everything because it was so public.
Right.
But like for 30 years, I dealt with alcoholism. I dealt with so many things,
Mm-hmm.
drugs, whatever. I didn't do drugs, but we all tend
Mm-hmm.
to find a vice to cope
Yeah.
and to not deal with what happened to us. And to this day, I haven't gotten HIV, and I'm so blessed. But I started Shield of Sisters because when we were in, there was no programs. There
No.
was nothing. You just sucked it up, like,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and even as ineffective as people say sharp and sark and all of those can be,
Mm-hmm.
at least there's a starting point,
Mm-hmm.
because like we floundered for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And what do we do now? What
Right.
what are we going to do? I've lost 30 years of my life because of this, you know. Um so I'm so glad you found a program, and uh I'm so sorry that your
Thank you.
military experience was such hell.
Yeah.
Such hell.
And the men
Because,
don't get it.
like you, I joined, yeah, yeah. I joined to serve my country,
Mm-hmm.
and was not expecting to be betrayed so horribly.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that Shield of Sisters, we don't always tell our stories
Mm-hmm.
because what I went through and what you went through are totally different, but the trauma is still horrible.
Real
And the
too.
outcomes, yeah. And it doesn't matter. I mean, we have women who have been so sexually harassed, they've killed themselves, or sorry, died by suicide.
Yeah.
Um, because that can be just as horrific, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And what people don't realize is when you join and you're subjected to all of these things, like, it just, it compounds and
Mm-hmm.
compounds. And when you're not believed and when you're treated like you're the bad person, um, it adds a whole nother level. And it's hard. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard. And so what was your turning point in getting help and going to treatment and
So my boss at work took me into a meeting that was just supposed to be me and him, but he took
Mhm.
me in with HR, his boss, and himself. And that's exactly how they did it in the military. My rapist, my company commander, and myself. And they started telling me that I was breaking company policy, which I wasn't. So I said, you know what? You're not going to treat me this way. I have I have reported everything. I need to go right now. They told me no. Sit down.
Mm.
Same thing they did in the military. So I went home that night. I was on call. My boss screwed up knowing I was on call. And when I finished doing my on call, I told my wife, I said, if I go into work tomorrow, I'm going to commit a homicide. So she said, you're going to the VA right now. I said, no, I'm not. Because when you go in at night, you get stuck in the nighttime with nothing. So I'll
Yeah.
go first thing in the morning. She woke me up. She said, we're going. I said, I'm agreeing. I went there. There was another vet that was there, a male vet, who was brutally raped, and he was trying to get into a program. And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, there's a great program in Battle Creek. So I asked my counselor. She said, no, that's a co-ed program and you wouldn't qualify. You need to be in a female one. I said, well, are there any female places? Just females. She said, nope, we don't know of any. So I started asking around other vets. And this other vet said, well, I know there's a place down in Florida. So I didn't have a phone, but when I came home, I researched, found it. Then I called it and they said, well, you live in the north, so you could go to Cincinnati. I'm like, Cincinnati, the VA right there? And she was like, well, it's actually an offshoot. It's in Kentucky, but they call it Cincinnati. She said that is where the MST program was developed, was here in the Fort Thomas, Kentucky, by a doctor named Kate. I don't remember her last name. I can text it to you. It's on her door. But she developed it here and then took it to Boston. So there's also one, a sister one in Boston.
Okay. Well, I'll definitely have to look into that. I'm from Kentucky, not too far from Cincinnati area. I'm glad to hear that my home state did something amazing
Yes,
because there are so many of us
yes,
and there's so little help.
yes.
And, we just started Shield of Brothers
Mm-hmm.
because we know there's a large number of men who are starting to come forward because
Yes,
the numbers are growing
yes,
and there's really nothing for them.
yeah,
uh, we're constantly uh, just researching and looking to help because there's so many of us that need that support and need to
yeah.
be able to thrive in life and live our lives without drugs and alcohol and
Mm-hmm.
suicidal ideation and all of the different things that come with MST. So
Now,
I go ahead.
go ahead, go ahead.
I think it's important that we share those resources with each other and
Yes.
to spread the word because the
Mm-hmm.
more we talk about it, the more we're all going to be able to get help and heal.
Right. Well, the people here talk to you about it, but they don't bring up your actual trauma. They'll say, you can write down your trauma or write MST, and then you don't have to explain it. But you do have to figure out, like, why do you think you're bad? You're not a bad person. They were the
Mm,
bad person. We
yeah,
were innocent young people that they took advantage of because they knew they wouldn't get punished.
yeah.
Now, our peer support also said, we have one woman here, she's been in and out of rehab. And he said, Jen, why do you think it's working so good for you now? She said, because you're taking care of my PTSD and I'm staying
Mm,
sober. She's, from the time she's been in, she's 45. She hasn't been sober. And they kicked her, well, they let her go honorable when she started doing drugs and tried making a big stink. This is a woman that they had on one of their recruiting posters. She was a recruiting poster child and was raped, brutally raped. over and over. Now, they're treating her PTSD. She's got 60 days tomorrow. We're all going to get with her when she gets her coin,
That's
because that's a big
awesome.
thing. In the
That is.
almost 30 years that she's been out, she hasn't been sober for 60 days. And surprisingly, she's still alive. And that is sad. They want us to kill ourselves because they don't care. And it's sad and it's disgusting. And
It's tragic.
I'm ready to fight them.
I'm
If
right
I
there with you.
if I can get into Congress, I want them bastards to know you did this because you made the rules, and it's a good old boys club.
Mhm.
And that's exactly
Well,
what
we
they
will
say.
definitely, yeah. Well, we will definitely fight right beside you, my friend. You have a network here that would love to support you and be right there with you because we know too well
Mm-hmm.
what it's like. You
Yep.
know, when I started this, it was everything I needed
Mm-hmm.
to heal
Mm-hmm.
and never got.
Yeah.
But I've been a lobbyist in Congress. I've done a lot of congressional work. And
Mm-hmm.
so let me know, girlfriend. We'll go roll that hill.
Well, guess what? I don't need a bullhorn. I
Nope.
am very
You
loud.
got a good voice.
I don't
You got a
need
good
a
voice.
speaker. They want to tell me I'm in contempt. Oh, no, wrong thing. I'm a woman with PTSD and a man caused it. You're not going to let me shut up. My mother raised a
Amen.
strong woman.
And you definitely are. Look at where you are, and you're doing so many great things. And I'm so very proud of you.
Thank you.
And we've gone about 20 minutes, and I just want to end this with if you have anything positive note to tell anyone, if they're struggling, what they could do to get help and move on from what happened.
The first thing I could tell them is go to your local VA and demand, don't ask, you demand you want treatment. Don't let them tell you that we'll get you into a program when there's availability. No, you do it within the first 30 days, because if you let them get away with it, they will do that to you for 30 years. That's what they did to me until I demanded to go into treatment. I said, how many more suicide attempts do I need to make? Or do I need to complete one of my suicides for you to finally listen? It's not going to happen because you are going to send me there. You're not alone. You get the help, ladies. That's the best thing. Talk about it. Don't let it eat you up inside. There's so many of us out there. We don't even know the numbers exactly, but
Mhm.
they say 1 in 3 women in the military were raped. I believe every single woman was raped, because
I've heard
everybody
that a
I have
lot.
talked to, I have not had one female not tell me they were not sexually assaulted. And I help everybody, male or female, get the benefits that they are owed.
Hmm.
We shouldn't have to beg for our benefits. We're the 6% of the population. Damn it, you know what's going on. Pay us for what you've done to us, going in unknowingly, being young and being afraid. Most of the women and men go in because they leave home. They 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 want to get away from home. So what do? You
Hmm.
join the military. I was already 21. I was older. I had already lived on my own, but I was patriotic and I wanted to join. And
Well,
they
I
did
thank
that.
you for your service, even though it was not not a great experience at all. I'm so sorry. But I thank you for your service regardless and for
Thank
your
you.
words of advice. Get
Mhm.
help. You're not alone. And I'm so
Mhm.
glad you're here. I'm so
Thank
glad
you.
your attempts never worked.
Me
So,
too.
and I look forward to hearing when you're out and how many days you're sober. And I'm always here for you, okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And we thank you for joining us for another episode of Invisible No More. We're Shield of Sisters, and please remember you're not alone and demand help. We'd like to thank the members of our Founders Circle, Superbio, Walmart, USAA, Sauk County Veterans Service Office, National Electrical Contractors Association, and Julie Norton. Ask us how you can be a member of the Founders Circle today.